You are listening to Terra Signals, presented by Normal Paranormal. I am your host, Justin Bamforth. Beth O'Brien and Michael Brown are two very good friends of mine who have been active in the paranormal community for quite some time. The two of them have an extensive history of investigating both private residences and public places as they counsel others who deal with this phenomenon on a regular basis. Now, coming from a background of interest and even first-hand experience, Michael Brown is no stranger to hauntings because, well, he actually resided in one in the early 2000s. At that time, he discovered that there were real teams of people professionally documenting this stuff. So he joined the well-known East Coast paranormal group, South Jersey Ghost Research, which is where he eventually met Beth O'Brien. Now, Beth saw her first spirit when she was just 4 years old and has been seeing them ever since. She's a Reiki master, a certified hypnotist, an ordained minister, and an end-of-life doula. But it's her keen intuition as a formally trained psychic medium who has learned how to develop those abilities and use them to help others, which is what we will get into tonight. And that in itself is ironic because Michael's approach to the paranormal, at first, was strictly tech-based. He had never met a legitimate psychic or medium, so he simply didn't believe in that aspect. But the more he investigated, the more he seemed to see, hear, and feel things that he couldn't explain, and were also validated by the equipment that he was using at the time. Well, all of that helped him to become a believer, and also realize that he himself had an intuitive side. And now the two of them use these psychic abilities and various pieces of high-tech instrumentation to document the evidence that we will look at tonight from 10 years of cases to demonstrate that there is, in fact, something going on in this unseen realm, or what we call the paranormal. And with that very long, but equally important introduction, I am pleased to introduce these extraordinary individuals to the show. Beth O'Brien and Michael Brown, thank you again for joining me.
You're welcome, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. This is awesome. Yeah.
Of course. Now, I understand both of you are also currently studying to become shamanistic practitioners. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct. Yeah.
Man, you just keep adding things to your resume, huh?
You're always learning and growing. This paranormals and spiritual stuff, it's never gets old. There's always something new to learn.
What was your very first experience of the paranormal and its impact on you?
Oh, well, my first experience was, I was, like you said, I was really young. I was, around 4 or 5 years old, and I saw my great-grandfather. We were over at my grandmom's house laying on the couch and described what he looked like as he actually had red hair too. And my mom said, no, there's no way, because he died before you were born. I'm like, well, why is he laying there on the couch? So that was my very first experience. And then I didn't have another experience until I was about 11 years old. We had moved out to Tabernacle, New Jersey. And I saw a Native American girl at the end of my bed. She was probably around 8 years old. But I was scared to death of it then because I didn't know what it was. And, I thought someone was in the house, And my dad, I would cry and scream because I always felt like there was somebody in my room. And he would come running in and there was nobody in my room. So that was my first two experiences that I've had. And then off and on, happened off and on through the years, mostly when I got older because I was afraid of it. Until I understood it more, then more experiences would happen. So that's my early experience of the paranormal.
Yeah, what's interesting just to add to what she said about seeing this Native American spirit as a child. I'm not sure if you mentioned that your mom also saw a Native American in the house as well at a different time.
She saw a full headdress.
Yeah.
Chief standing at the foot of her bed, and she was frozen and couldn't move, and she was awake. But she doesn't like to admit it.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is we were researching the land because the land where she lived in Tabernacle was just interesting. And so we looked into it a little bit, and I found out that she lived just off of Oakshade Road in Tabernacle. And that was actually one of the borders of the Brotherton Indian Reservation back in the day. So, and there are a lot of mounds, interesting looking mounds around that area. So yeah, it was interesting that you see Native Americans, and there's actual documented evidence that the Indians literally lived there in that neighborhood. Interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Well, I mean, Michael, you talked about, or in the intro, we talked about you living in a haunted location. But prior to that, had you had any experiences?
Actually, no. I was always interested in the topic. I know I grew up watching In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, like a lot of us, old people, and so so I was always interested in UFOs and Bigfoot and the unexplained and all that stuff as a kid, but never experienced anything firsthand until I moved into that house, and like I said, like I've said many times, there was it was daily activity. I mean, it was something happened there literally every single day and every single night. Sometimes it would be subtle. I mean, there were interesting things like you would come home from work and I put my keys in the same spot on the kitchen counter every day and go throughout, go with the rest of my routine. And I'd need to run out to the truck or something 20 minutes later, half hour later, go to grab the keys, and they're gone. They're not on the countertop. And the kids weren't around. No one else was in the area. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. It took me like 45 minutes to find him. I found him in the attic, actually. And so it began like subtle things like that, or a door closing, a window closing, lights turning on and off, that kind of stuff. And I think the most profound experience I had there, really sort of hit it home for me, was a friend of ours was over, and he was just getting ready to leave. He's standing in the kitchen, and he's standing directly underneath of this ceiling fan. And my friend was giant. He was like 6'5", like 300 pounds, a huge guy. So his head is like right underneath, this ceiling fan. And we were just chit-chatting as he's getting ready to leave, and all of a sudden we simultaneously see the light turn off as we hear the pull chain click, and all of us look up and we can see the chain is swinging. And he just went, all right, that's it, I'm out. And just went out. And it was right after that when my daughters were upstairs sleeping, and me and my ex were in the kitchen talking about something, and we saw clearly what we thought was one of our daughters run through the dining room right next to the kitchen, and then cross the dining room and into the other room, into the hallway. And our immediate reaction was like, oh, what are they doing up? This, they're messing around. As I say that, and we start heading towards the girls' room, I'm thinking in my brain, like, wait a minute, I didn't hear the floor creak. I didn't hear the footsteps in the hallway where it was hardwood floor. It creaked a lot. It was really impossible to move around there silently because it was a really old house. It was, built in 1776. So it had a lot of original floors even still, but it was very creaky. So it was impossible to move around there without making a racket, honestly. And I didn't hear anything. I'm thinking that to myself as we're going upstairs. Go upstairs into the girls' room, open up the door, and they're both sound asleep. And it was just as solid as as you or I or anyone else I would see run by a doorway right next to me, in a semi-lit room. I mean, we thought it was one of them.
Wow.
Clearly wasn't. Yeah.
Well, the first reaction, right, when you see something like that is to have fear, to be scared. And I know a lot of people on the outside who are not paranormal investigators, they tend to look at us and think, how do you guys how are you fearless, right? What's the best way to control that fear?
Well, you mean with us or other people, or to help other people with it?
Yeah, just like in general, you see something on a case, and a regular person will probably turn and run, or they go, oh, no, and they, freak out.
Yeah.
But knowing you two and your extensive experience with this, you're not afraid of it. But back then, it may have been a little unsettling, right, to experience this, especially
Correct.
if you're not used to it. Do you think that experiencing it more often allows you to master that and overcome that fear? Or do you think it's something that you have to learn, you have to actively learn?
I think it's combination. I think it's a combination. By doing it, you understand it more, and because you're there to help the client to ease their mind. So we don't show any fear, even if we may be unsure of something that we're seeing or a little bit afraid. We're professionals, so we are taught, and we learn not to overreact or show that fear, because then we're not helping people if we get scared and frightened. Because if paranormal people can't help them with something paranormal in the house, then it's like they'll even be more fearful, I think, on who could help them. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of people sort of overestimate that fear reaction, because we've done a lot of public investigations and helped out people, just show them how we investigate and show them how to use pieces of equipment and stuff like that. Around at Pennhurst and Fort Mifflin and stuff like that. But most people's reaction isn't the fear. It's people's reaction if they see something move in the corner of their eye is to go like, oh, hey, wait, who's over there? And that actually happened was at Fort Mifflin, where I saw a shadow walking into an area where I knew all the people that we were with were in this one casemate in front of us. And so then it took me like a couple seconds for my brain to catch up, like, oh, wait a minute. There can't be anyone over there, because everyone that's with us is in here, in this room right in front of me. So I think your reaction is more often that, just kind of confusion, like, wait a minute, who was that? Or who made that noise? Or who made that door move? Or whatever. It really isn't a fear reaction most of the time. It's just kind of like I don't know, I think the weirder things are that happen, the longer it takes your brain to catch up. So sometimes you don't have a chance to be afraid, because you're just confused.
It's one of those preconceived notions that the paranormal is always going to be scary, when in fact it's not. It's more surprising. It's unexpected. But you guys have handled a lot of the more scary cases, as we would describe them as, the intense cases, the, dare I say, demonic and inhuman cases, right?
Yeah, we've done a few of those.
Yeah.
And they are scary. I think people are fearful, especially when they say, if they don't understand it or know what it is, then people can be afraid of their house being haunted or what's in their house, especially, and that's their reaction. They are afraid of it, I think. I think they're afraid of it. I think it is fearful for some people, or they wouldn't be calling us and asking for our assistance.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that, yeah.
There's different types of hauntings, which a lot of people don't realize, right? There are, for those of you unfamiliar with the certain terms, there are things called residual hauntings, intelligent hauntings, and then these more negative ones. Why do you think these negative cases or inhuman cases occur? And are those two classifications between like demonic and inhuman, are those entirely different?
Well, I believe the demonic ones or negative cases, it has to do with sometimes when, we're younger and we dabble into Ouija boards or we dabble into witchcraft. And a lot of times when you dabble into those things, you don't know what you're doing. You invite negative stuff in. We find out most of the time, 99% of the time, you create your own negative energy and your own negative entity by the life you're living. And then you feed on it. If you're living a bad life, if there's drugs, alcohol, anything along those lines, if you're fighting, arguing, then a lot of times that's the negative energy and entity in the house. So it depends on how bad you're living your life, on the energy level of the negativity that's in your home.
Do you think that being more sensitive to these entities, these energies, do you think you have to be extra cautious and extra protective because you have that ability?
Yes, I think when this happens and you invite it in, for some people actually make a pact with the devil, they call it. If you give me this or do that, then they'll give away their firstborn, so to speak, which is awful, but it's just a saying. But that happens. They just make this pact, and they get all these negative experiences happening. And once you do that, it's always like in the background. It's always following. So you always have to put extra protection up, meaning you could picture, if you believe in angels, Archangel Michael with his sword. Whatever you believe in to help, you can help yourself to be protected. You can even imagine in your mind's eye a suit of armor, but you have to believe in the protection, because Some people use oils, crystals, crosses, medallions. They don't work unless you believe in them. So a lot of this is belief factor and your faith.
Yeah, I think if you take an item, it could be a completely innocuous item, but it might mean something to you, and you feel that protects you, and you sort of pour your intent into that item, and and with the express purpose of making that thing the focus of your intention and protection. It could be something your mother gave you, or a family member gave you, or a child gave you. It could be just some certain cross or a crystal or some holy symbol that just sort of really jumped out at you, and you just felt you needed to have.
Well, it looks like we lost our guests. We seem to be having some technical difficulties, so we'll just wait for them to rejoin. It's really strange. Sometimes when you talk about this topic, strange things do happen. And I know that with Beth and Mike, that does happen from time to time. So the important thing is to stay calm, to not freak out. There could be different reasons for this. And here they are, returning. Welcome back.
Hi. We're not sure why this happens.
We're talking about bad stuff.
Paranormal stuff, and it happens.
So I think what I was saying when I got cut off there is that you essentially take that item and it becomes like an item of power, like a talisman. It's a crystal is just a rock, unless you really believe that helps protect you and that you wear that and have faith that that's going to protect you.
Is it possible to remove a spirit?
Human spirits, you have to, in my line of work, you have to coincide with. Human spirits, you can't make leave. They are able, because of free will, they are able to, I believe in heaven, wherever you believe they go. They can come back to earth, to heaven, and go back and forth. Evil spirits, they supposedly have to abide by rules, and you have to want them gone, and then they have to be gone. It's not saying that they can't come back. It's that again, that comes back to your protection and keeping your protection up, because once you invite this negativity in, it's like you most of the time have this dark cloud around you that you always have to be aware of, what you're doing and who you're inviting in and your protection.
We kind of touched on believing in things, right? To kind of ward off certain energies, certain entities. But a lot of people tend to jump to sage, right? As a way to remove a spirit, or to cleanse at home, or to kind of get that energy out, right?
Right.
Do you advise people to sage their homes if they think something paranormal is happening, or should they rely on those such as yourself who actually have the know-how and training to do it?
Well, they used to say that, but actually we found out that if there's something negative in your house, do not use sage. Sage promotes positivity, but doesn't, or if your house is stale, or you're having a bad day, but if there's anything negative in your home, it makes it worse, the negative energy worse, because negative energy hates sage. So what you would do is called Palo Santo, Palosanto, which is a stick, and it's found in the rainforest, and the oils on the stick, they don't cut the tree down. It's when the tree is dead. Then they cut them up into like pieces of wood, and that you would burn the end of that, and that gets rid of all negative energy. And then you could go around and use sage to promote positivity, but it doesn't get rid of negative energy.
Wow, that is incredible information right there. That is the first time I've ever heard somebody say.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, it's pretty much equivalent to like frankincense, that are used in Catholic rituals and exorcisms and stuff like that. It's used in exorcisms as well.
We've had people that had attempted to use sage, and the sage has gone missing in their house.
No kidding.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. Now, some of these cases that you've worked on, you two have seen a lot of things, and you've experienced a lot. But that's not the norm, right? I mean, let's be honest. The paranormal investigation is really quite boring. It's uneventful. It's unexciting. But every once in a while, you'll come across one of these cases that has intense activity, right? And I know that you cover a lot of private cases, a lot of residential homes and all that stuff. So without giving too much away, what are some of those? Oh, and we just lost them again, folks. Again, it seems that technical difficulties play a part into this phenomenon. And it seems like this might be a common theme throughout our recording tonight. So, for those of you who are just listening to the audio portion of this broadcast, Mike and Beth seem to be losing their connection and suddenly reappearing then with their connection. So they are back.
Oh, man.
So, all right. So without missing a beat, welcome back. I was just informing the audience how sometimes these things tend to occur. When we talk about certain topics, certain malfunctions tend to happen, certain electrical interference. Sometimes, even when you're listening to this, weird things may happen. So
yes,
listen and beware. But what we were just talking about before you left is some of the more interesting residential cases that you guys have covered. Can you share some of them? Can you go into detail without going into too much detail and exposing them?
You want to start?
Like, give us an idea of maybe some of the more interesting cases, or maybe some of the cases you're working on now that have interesting aspects that you've never seen before, or those things that make you go, that's really peculiar. Not quite sure what to do with that. And I think they froze up again, ladies and gentlemen. So this is an interesting conversation here, and I don't know how much we're going to get through tonight with all these interferences, but we're gonna try our best, and hopefully Beth and Mike can return. What Beth and Mike have covered in the past has been some really interesting cases. There's a lot of really interesting aspects to their research. They've investigated a lot of really disturbing things, but at the same time, they've been able to help and assist a lot of people. So hopefully when they return, we might be able to get into some of those cases and talk about them. But for now, we're just going to have to wait until they can restore their connection. Mike Brown also hosts a podcast, and I know some strange things have happened when he's been in the midst of interviewing guests on his end for his show. It's called The Bunker, which I highly recommend. It's an excellent, excellent show. But hopefully this is not a thing that's going to happen throughout tonight's interview. We're just going to have to hope for the best and work within it. So we'll wait for them to return. This has happened twice when I've asked about the residential cases, which maybe it leads me to believe maybe I shouldn't ask about that particular aspect. All right, Beth and Mike, they are back. Welcome back. So that's twice now when I brought up residential cases that we've lost some power. Any idea what might be happening? Is it a weak Wi-Fi connection on your end, or?
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
But you've experienced some weird things while recording your podcast, The Bunker. Anything of this sort of nature?
Nothing close
keeps
to
saying,
this.
Page can't be found. Oops. And then it went
yeah.
black.
His screen's went completely black.
That's what it keeps doing. Sorry.
Interesting.
Sorry, Justin. I'm so
that's
sorry.
okay.
I have a 5G connection, so I'm not sure what's going on.
It just adds to the realism of what you two go through and deal with. So hopefully third time's a charm. What are the more interesting residential cases you've worked on?
We went on this one residential case where the woman called because she said that cats keep getting into the bed with her. So we went out there and I actually had to physically get in the bed with her. And she started off with a total stranger under the covers. And then all of a sudden she's like, "They're in the bed. Can't you feel the cats all in the bed? They're crawling in the bed." And I didn't feel any cat at all. And it was just really bizarre, because, I thought for sure, being the psychic, that I would feel a cat, but there was no cat in her bed that I could feel, but she could feel the cats all in her bed, all over. So that was kind of bizarre. And I couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah, there's times where we'll show up somewhere and the stuff doesn't act on cue. So, I mean, it was weird that she was feeling these cats in the bed and you were in the bed also and didn't feel anything. So it's kind of like, is she really feeling cats? We're not really sure. But a lot of times, people contact us. We go out there and nothing happens. Luckily, we have, the two different things that we use basically to investigate is the equipment and Beth, basically. And, she'll usually come up with some information. Something useful we can go with. It's a relative, or it's this man who looks like this, or this kind of woman that looks dressed like that. Some kind of detail so that we can at least go with it. But a lot of times, the equipment is just sitting there and nothing happens.
Oh, and another case, we won't mention names, but we were at the Hinsdale house doing it was a private investigation. Oh, okay. And we physically watched one of our members physically get pulled off the couch onto the floor. So that was and you could see no one grabbed her humanly, and the way she was pulled, you can tell she didn't make herself fall. It was like a yank and right to the floor from her ankle.
Yeah, and her shoe was just kind of hanging on the end of her foot. It almost just got pulled right off of her foot.
What are some of those more intense visual things that you've experienced while working on cases, like what you just described? What are some other ones?
The visual, the one, her being pulled off.
Yeah. Oh, well, we were just down the street here at the Burlington County Prison Museum, and we just went in for a day. You can pay a couple of bucks, $5 or whatever, to go in for a day tour, and we just go in with a couple recorders and a couple pieces of equipment in our pocket and just go in and investigate. So we were there one day, and for whatever reason, Beth just kept getting grabbed, over and over and over again. And we were standing, we were on I believe it was the second floor, standing outside one of the cells, and inside some of the cells they have little dummies dressed up that are in different scenes, they're sitting on the bed playing poker and that kind of stuff. We were standing outside the one cell, and Beth was curious because on the bunk there was this little cigar box, and it looked like they had playing cards in it or something like that, or postcards maybe. And so she was curious, so she just reached in and picked up the box to see what was in there. And I was looking down. I was turning on or off my recorder or something. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw a hand come out from the corner of the cell and start moving right towards Beth's hand. And just as I brought my head up to say something, I saw it go towards her hand, and then I saw her jump and pull her hand back. And I was like, I just saw that. I literally just saw that.
Yeah, with your eye.
Yeah. Yeah, it was see-through, illuminated, sort of misty looking, but it was clearly a guy's arm and a hand. You could see the hair. Wow. And it was a big burly hand. Yeah. Yeah, it was wild.
Had you ever experienced anything like that before?
No. I've seen apparitions like that, full bodies, on a few occasions, maybe 4 or 5 times, mostly in Gettysburg, to be honest, on the battlefield. So we've seen stuff like that, but that's the one and only time I've ever seen a spirit, if that's what it was, reach out and grab her. Because I didn't get a chance to say, hey, Beth, heads up. And she just felt it touch her, and I saw her reaction. We pulled her hand back. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. That's the only time I've ever seen a spirit, quote unquote, actually, seeing it and manipulating something at the same time. I'm like, have you ever seen that?
No. In Gettysburg, I physically saw a soldier walk across the street, in the park there. Physically was a soldier in all his attire with my eye, and usually when the work that I do, I don't physically see I see you, Justin, or Mike, I see in my third eye, but every once in a while I will physically see something. With my, with the naked eye, I would physically see something, but that's rare. So that's pretty cool when I do see something like that.
So getting into your abilities, Beth, we know that there's different clairs, right? There's clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. There's a bunch of others. What do you best relate to? And can you describe it?
Mostly I'm clairsentience. I feel things. I'm all the clairs. Eventually, you develop all the clairs, but mostly I'm clairsentient. I can feel things. I can feel things about to happen and sense things. And then the last one that was for me to come was clairaudient. Mike hears clairaudient. I don't hear as well, but he can hear clairaudient.
What does it sound like? And how do you differentiate it between just like a stray sound or a stray voice that could be next door? How do you make that?
Well, with clairaudient, you would hear just like I'm talking to you. Like you hear my voice, that's how you would hear it in your ear. It would be in your, ears, right? That's how you hear it.
Yeah. And I've had a good handful of EVPs. Not that were always captured, but some of them were. That I actually literally felt it. Like the voice was so close to my ear, I could actually feel the breath, and I could feel the person's voice, hit the side of my face as well as hear it. That's happened a few times. It's rare, but when it happens, that'll wake you up.
Wow.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
But does it sound like, is it a lower volume, or is it like a whisper, or is it? How would you describe it? And the reason I'm asking this is there might be people listening who might be experiencing this, right? But they can't tell if it's their mind playing tricks on them or if it's, a errant sound from outside. How do you make that call?
Yeah, that's one of those things that you seem to just get more sensitive to the more you pay attention to it. Like, the longer you're sitting in the dark, you can't see anything. Your hearing tends to take over, and it's almost. I always looked at it like working out that muscle. And the more EVPs I caught, and the more I tried to catch EVPs, over time, the more I was actually hearing with my ear. And it does sound like a voice. It's almost always a whisper for whatever reason. We're not sure why that is, but it just sort of. At this point now, I can kind of just tell the difference. Like when I could be in a room full of people having a conversation, and that extra weird voice will pop in that others might hear or might not, usually not. And it just, it sounds like a voice, like you said, but it just sounds off, or there's something different about it. And maybe it's the frequency, I'm not sure.
Well, and if there's no one else in the room and we're not talking, and that it didn't come from outside, then that's how it's spirit.
Yeah, there's been lots of times where, the voice is just so loud you can hear, if we're in a tunnel, for example, you can hear the same reverb and echo from that voice that you would hear from my voice in that same location, being physically there. So there's something to that. We've run into that a lot at Penhurst in the tunnels and stuff. Moans and stuff that you'll just hear, and voices spoken right next to you, and you can hear them echo down the hallway.
Yeah, it is like you're a trained ear. When you first, when I first started learning about EVPs, I wouldn't hear anything until it takes a trained ear to know the difference, whether it's a whisper or your teammate talking, and you kind of get used to, like Mike was saying, hearing that voice or that whisper, and that it's not. Well, in human form, and it's not one of us talking, so you kind of get in tune with that.
Tell me about EVP, right? What does it mean, and what have you learned with this particular technique?
EVP stands for electronic voice phenomenon, and what that strictly defines is a voice that is captured on a recording device that no one heard physically with their ears at the time. So that's a kind of a thing that you will be completely unaware of, whether you're asking questions or if you're just recording your child on a swing or something. That camera recorder is going, and sometimes inadvertently you'll catch strange voices on it. But it's weird how, we've experienced all combinations of this happening. Like I said, an EVP normally is something that's recorded but you didn't hear it. The longer we've been doing this, the more that we've experienced hearing things that the recorder didn't pick up, that should have been picked up, that were so loud that there was no way. Voices that are louder than us in this room should have been recorded on that recorder, but lo and behold, you play it back and there's nothing there. Those are disappointing. And we've also had EVP that a true classic EVP, you didn't hear it when it was recorded, but in review you hear the voice, and you go back and you listen to it and oh my God, this is great. And then the next day you go back to listen to the same audio file and the volume is halved, without editing it, without messing with it or doing anything. So I'm not sure how EVP works, how it ends up. I mean, we were always told in training, like it somehow just imprints a voice on that recorder, because if there's a physical voice in the room that's audible, and you have average hearing, you should have heard it and it should have been recorded. But that isn't always the case, and we're not really sure why that is. Why sometimes, you could have a bank of recorders, 3 or 4 of the exact same recorder sitting in a room, recording like you're doing an EVP session. You play it back, and 2 of the recorders have a voice on it, the other 3 don't. So I don't know how that works, but yeah,
that is really fascinating, right? It seems
it's weird
that like EVP, whatever we think we know about it, something happens and it kind of changes our previous thoughts. And then we have to kind of rewrite everything and think, okay, well then it must be this, right? Because yes, there's that argument that the voice imprints itself on the recorder, but then there's the argument that, well, maybe it doesn't, because like you mentioned, you hear an audible voice in the room and it doesn't pick it up. So it's also like bypassing the recorder too. This is such a peculiar aspect of paranormal investigation. And you've supplied some examples of this, some of the best EVPs that you've recorded. Do you want to give us a little context about this clip before we play it?
Sure. My dad passed away in 2019, and my parents had a reversed mortgage, so it was a 4-bedroom home over an acre land in Tabernacle. My dad had a 6-bed garage built in the back for his antique street rod cars, and my dad passed away, and then my mom had to go into a nursing home, so we had to pack everything up and get everything out. We had only like a few weeks to get it out. So I figured, I'm like, well, first rule of thumb, you never investigate your own house. But I figured that they're not living there anymore, it would be okay. So we went out to where my dad spent most of his life, in his garage, because he would build street rod cars and he would race at Atco Raceway. And I was like, all right, Dad, this is our last day here. We're packing up, moving out. How about, give me a sign, or can you, say something to me to let us know that you're here? And then this is one of them that we captured.
Okay, we're going to play that one right now.
Dad. The whisper was my father saying, Dad. And then I said, Dad. So you can hear the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another one of those instances where the EVP precedes what you said before you say it.
Like my dad knew I was going to say it. Yeah.
Let's play that one more time.
Dad.
Yeah, that's really remarkable. Not the first time I've heard about that too. It's almost like the phenomenon is one step ahead of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like it knows what we're going to do even before we know we're going to do it. It's really remarkable. What do you think this was, Beth? Do you think this was your subconscious that was being picked up? Or do you think this was your father? Or do you think this was something else? I
believe it was my father, but can I prove it? I don't know. Because the recorder picked it up, so it's like you don't know. I could sense his energy was there, obviously, and I felt it was his spirit. But that's the thing with paranormal; you can't prove it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, yeah. If your recorder can pick up your thoughts, I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, let's play this one more time.
Dad.
Very interesting
It's
stuff.
wild.
Yeah.
That one's wild. It's so clear.
Now, you have another one from the same location, right? And I think this one is titled Gold and Silver.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We were in the basement this time. There was so much stuff we had to clean out. And back in the day, you're probably too young, Justin, but Boscov's department store used to give like free gifts out if you bought stuff. So they gave us, my mom, this big suitcase of fake silverware. So, and it was like plated, with silver or gold plated, you can chip it off with your finger.
Yeah, it's like gold paint, basically.
And my sister thought she found the jackpot, but it was fake, and it was fake. And at that time, it was only Mike and I down there, and we were packing it up, and that's when you hear.
Yeah, so in the clip, Beth is like showing me the silverware set and explaining to me that, oh yeah, Kim found this and thought it was the jackpot or whatever.
Yeah. And then you hear them say, someone say, my dad or spirit.
Yeah, what I like about this is the EVP overlaps
me talking,
Beth talking, so you can just hear it, like it's a self-proof that it's definitely not Beth, and it sure as heck isn't me, and we're the only ones on the property at that time. So yeah, it's interesting.
All right, I'm gonna play the clip, gold and silver.
Fake. It's plated. We tried. See how it bubbles? Man, if you can do that, it's just golden silver. I know. That's the other night. Remember, Kimmy found it. She's like, "Oh my god!"
I'm gonna play it one more time here.
It's fake. It's plated. We tried. See how it bubbles? Man, if you can do that, it's just golden silver. I know. That's the other night. Remember, Kimmy found it. She's like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, but.
Yeah, so the gold and silver is a voice that, is like out of thin air.
Yeah, this is it's very clear. I mean, yeah, and sometimes EVP works that way, right? When two people are talking, the EVP will be in the middle of the conversation, and it'll say something like this. That's why I like this clip. It's a perfect example of that. When you first heard this, did you jump to the conclusion that, maybe it was one of us, or how do you, determine?
Yeah, because it almost sounds like me, but how can I do that and talk at the same time?
Yeah.
Like, it almost sounds like it could be me, but then I'm like, well, I'm talking as it's talking over me. So, and I never said those words, because you hear me talking throughout the whole time. So, I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those remarkable clips that, how do you explain it away? It's
you can't explain it.
Yeah.
Unless you are one of the most amazing ventriloquists on the planet, it's really difficult to write it off as such, right?
I'll add that to my resume.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah. All right, let me play this again here.
We tried. See how it bubbles? Man, if you can do that, it's just golden silver. I know. That's the other night. Remember, Kimmy found it. She's like, "Oh my god!"
Now, let me ask you this: in that recording, you hear these weird beeps, right? This weird feedback. Do you know what that is at all, or it's like right as the gold and silver clip, or right as the voice says that, there's this little high pitched. I don't know what it is.
I don't know either. You hear? I know what you're hearing because I hear it too. I can't explain what that is.
I have no idea what that is.
Do you find when you're going over evidence and you get a voice or what you believe is a voice, do you find a similar notion where there's this weird feedback with the electronics?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We're going to do That Was For You. Do you know which one this one is?
Yes. This one is from the Center Life and Balance in Medford, where Beth has her office at. And we were doing a public investigation there, the first one ever, I'm pretty sure. And we had quite a few recorders going that night, but it was incredibly active EVP-wise. We caught over 40 EVPs in probably 5 hours. I think it was 5.
That's with everybody, collection of
to
all.
6 hours.
A collection of all of us.
Yeah, maybe we probably had, I don't know, maybe 10 to 12 recorders total, probably. But a insane amount of EVPs, and from one location that is, I mean, it's basically this old house that was converted into offices, and it's a whole bunch of holistic practitioners in there. So there's other mediums there, there's psychics there, massage therapists, acupuncture, there's a store, like all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if any of us really expected for it to be that active. I mean, we've had a lot of crazy experiences there, just us, like chairs moving and stuff, and we smelled like a turkey dinner being cooked in the house one time. There was no one in the house, but I don't think we expected to catch this many EVPs. And this clip is interesting, and the reason I picked this one is because you actually, in the very beginning of the clip, you're going to hear a REM pod going off. So you can hear the REM pod's being activated, and then it goes off for a couple of seconds, and then a voice comes in right after that. Kind of, it sounds like explaining what just happened in a way.
What is a REM pod?
Yeah, so it's I wish I had one here to show you. I don't have it. It is REM pod stands for radiating electromagnetic, and what it essentially does is it radiates its own little sort of EM bubble around the antenna on the top of the device. And if something that can conduct energy breaks that field, it will actually alarm, and the lights and an audible alarm will go off. And the closer to the antenna that the disturbance gets, the higher pitch and the more lights actually activate. So it's it's almost like a trip sensor in a way. You can put it in a room, and if you have to be careful with them sometimes, because walkies will sometimes set them off. The newer ones seem to be more shielded for that, but the original ones a lot of other things would set them off, so you have to be careful about false positives. But I think the newer devices are more dependable. So if essentially you don't see anybody near the device, there's no animal, there's no person near there, and it's going off, then you have some sort of strange disturbance. Something is disturbing the electromagnetic field. What it exactly is, I'm not sure, but
you'll hear the REM pod on this recording, and then you'll hear the EVP after that, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, let's play this. All right, I'm going to play it again here.
Yeah, that one's a little bit low, and there's somebody, I think, moving at the same time, like walking by.
Okay.
It's kind of the whisper at the end said, "It's for you."
Yeah, it sounds like I said that was for you. That's what it sounds like to me.
It's not as clear as the other ones. Like,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be considered a Class A, but you could hear at the end, it's like, "For you," or something.
Yeah.
Explain the classification. Like what we heard earlier, that would be like a Class A EVP,
That would
right?
be, yes, that would be Class A. There's Class A, which means that there's no doubt that you heard what it said. There's no explanation. You can explain it. It's, either yes or no. You heard what it said. Class B is, well, maybe it said this. Well, it sounds more like this to me.
Yeah.
And then Class C is, you throw it out. You can't make it sense of. No one can hear anything. Or, which is weird, sometimes one person can hear it, and like Michael sent me EVPs, and I'm like, I can't hear what you're hearing. I don't hear anything. So that's another weird thing. Or I'll do the same thing, and I said, did you hear that? I'm going to say this EVP. You heard that, right? And he'd be like, I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
So that's how.
Yeah.
That's how that works. That is weird also. I don't know why one person can hear something and another person can't. But I think this, you can hear it's faint at the end, but you can hear it a little bit.
Let's play it one more time, and folks, try to listen. What Beth and Mike have interpreted to be is "that was for you." See if you can hear this.
That was for you. Sounds like
A creepy voice.
Yeah, I can hear a little bit, but it's very tough to hear, and that's part of the downside when you're going through evidence, right? That's why you have to really have those trained ears listening for things, because an investigator could overlook a particular clip, and it could be an actual EVP.
Correct.
This is not easy. Going through hours and hours of evidence is not easy. It takes a trained ear Takes a lot of time, takes a lot of patience. Are there some days that you just think, okay, this is just not worth my time anymore? I'm going to get out of this.
That's me. I do not like. I can't do it. I'll give it to him to listen for most of the time. I can't do it. I can't sit there for hours and hours and hours. It drives you nuts. But when you do get one, it's really exciting and it is addicting. Yeah. Then you want more. But it's just having that time to listen hours and hours. I can listen maybe 20 minutes or a half hour, but I'm like, I can't. I'd have to come back to it. Some people can just sit there for hours and just listen to it, and it's just, I can't do it.
You know what else is really challenging too is if you have a really, really clear EVP, it could just pass right by you, like you won't even notice it. If you're not paying close attention the entire time you're listening, you can't be like daydreaming. You can't, like, you got to be really keyed into all the sound, who's in that audio clip, how many investigators are in the room, where's so-and-so, this was about this time, so they were on the third floor. You know what I mean? You have to really keep close attention the whole time you're listening, because if you get a really, really clear EVP, it'll go right by you, and you won't even hear it, because you'll just think it just fits into the normal conversation in the room. Yeah. And if you don't go, wait a minute, who? You know what I mean? Like, you have to notice right away, wait a minute, whose voice is that?
It does take a trained ear to hear
it. Hard. It's easy to miss it if you're listening for hours and hours on end. It's very important to know, like, okay, I'm starting to doze. I'm going to rewind it 5 minutes, and I'm stopping it right there, and then just, get some rest and come back the next day or a couple of days later or something and finish it, because it isn't worth it to just get through it and end up missing half the stuff that's on there. Because it's easy to miss. It really is.
Are there any other EVPs that were at that location that you sent me?
No.
Okay.
That was just those two.
Okay, gotcha. Then I'm going to pick another one here. And the reason why I ask is there's one titled Beth Center, EVP Skylar.
Oh yeah. Oh, this one. I teach a psychic development class, and my office is on the 3rd floor. And during the class, we were doing like a little. Actually, I was teaching them about the paranormal. So that's one of the classes I teach with the psychic development class. And one of my students, her name is Skylar, and she had sensed an energy or a spirit standing next to her. So we ask, there is a little girl spirit that is at the Center Life and Balance where I work. We thought it was her. She's about an 8-year-old little girl, long brown hair, and she, wanders the house, and other people have experienced her. Well, we thought it was her, but a man's voice answered instead with this question that you're about to play.
Wow. Okay. Here we go.
Emily, do you like hanging out with Skylar over there?
All right. I'm going to play it one more time.
Emily, do you like hanging out with Skylar over there?
Now, real quick, there seems to be an echo in that recording. Is that echo... Was that explained, or was it a large...
I do that from my cell phone.
Oh,
so it wasn't a recorder.
Gotcha.
I just had my cell phone on at the time, and I said, this is how we do an EVP session. I was telling the class, and I said, let's see if we could do one. And then we asked that question, then you hear the man's voice say, yes.
At the very end. Okay, Let me play it one more time.
And there's no men in the room, and nobody was talking at the time.
Emily, do you like hanging out with Skylar over there?
Wow, that is really interesting. There's some sort of sound. I don't know if I hear yes. I do hear something.
Okay.
Interesting.
But that's one of the challenges with EVP is it's up to interpretation sometimes, especially if it's not a Class A EVP. Have you two been in situations where one person thinks it's this, and the other person is like, no, I'm 100% certain it's that.
Yeah. Yep. That's a Class B. When someone thinks they're saying one thing and you think they're saying something else. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, let's play this again, and folks, see what you think.
Emily, do you like hanging out with Skylar over there? There's
something there.
To me, I mean, I would say a good EVP because it says yes, but it's a man's voice for sure.
Yeah, it's weird, but it also sounds kind of like almost gargled or something at the same time.
Yeah,
like
or like a static or
yeah, staticky maybe is the right word. It sounds odd.
That's what I hear. I hear a little bit more static to it. That's why I'm having a hard time making out that definitive yes.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you know what it was, and it was forceful. It was almost like, you remember, like maybe it was her father, because the Center Life and Balance, Dr. Edgar Haynes used to deliver babies there in the 1800s. So you know how back in the day children are to be seen and not heard, and they would have to go to bed at a certain time, and I think it was like 8 o'clock at night past her bedtime, and it was like 4, to me, and this could be the psychic part taken over, but I was like, it was like, okay, because this young spirit, we named her is Emily, and it was like, time to get to bed. That's why it was like, yes, like, like get to bed, kid. You're not supposed to be up.
Yeah.
Do you ever get like impressions as you're listening to the EVP? And it gives you like an answer or something? Yeah.
It does. It happens. It depends. Like how I know that, to me, that yes felt male, like a male energy saying it, So, and I think that's when the psychic part, or mediumship, whatever you want to call, taps into that energy-wise from that EVP. Yeah, I do get impressions sometimes from the EVP. Yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question? Does that help?
Well, have you ever heard a clip and thought to yourself, "That's not good. We shouldn't have listened to this." Yes, scary.
Yes. The mother was. There was a mother and daughter that came to my psych development class, and they thought that was a very scary voice.
Yeah, because when you hear it, it sounds very scary.
It's very forceful, and it sounds mad. Like, yes, yeah. They were afraid. So I would calm them down and be like, oh no, he must have been like a very stern man, very, quiet, or very, just a really private man. And I'm impressions wise, I'm thinking it felt to me like it was the doctor who used to deliver the babies there. That's what it felt like, Dr. Edgar Haynes.
Which would not be scary at all.
It would not be scary, but I'm thinking if past the bedtime, maybe it's time to get to bed. That's what it just felt like, or don't bother me. But I wasn't going to go into that with the class.
Yeah, we've had discussions with people at public events in particular about that sort of thing, and not trying to read too much into it, and sort of start pouring fear into it, because that's seems to be, in our experience, what fuels a lot of, or strengthens rather, a lot of maybe more intense or potentially negative things. The more fear that's put into that place or that situation or that entity or that situation, it just makes everything worse. And so with EVPs, if we ever hear, or at a lot of events, someone will have an ovilus and it'll start spewing out random words. And every time I've ever heard one of those machines turned on, it always says demon, no matter where we're at. So when people hear that and they get upset, it's like, no, you can't read too much into it, because until you start getting multiple pieces of evidence piling on top of each other that are corroborating each other, then it's like, okay, now you have a better idea what's going on. But
that device that you're referring to, called an ovilus, right?
Yes.
How does it work, for those who may not be familiar?
I have no idea. No idea. There's like a word bank in there, and supposedly based on, I'm not sure what sets it off. I'm thinking just differences in the environment, temperature and EMF and stuff like that, triggers it to like pull words out. And I mean, can it be used to communicate? I guess it's possible, but I mean, we really haven't messed with that much. It's been very rare that it ever said anything that was really poignant, or like a direct answer to a question, for example. We've had a lot more success with just recording and just catching EVPs.
Are there any pieces of equipment that are pretty much worthless or are overrated on investigations? You see them during the public ghost hunts that people just should not use. Are there any of those types of tools out there that maybe you'd steer people away from using?
Ovulus.
The Ovulus is one of them for sure. We tend to stick to the more basic, just atmospheric things. Like EMF sensor, humidity sensor, temperature sensor. Different motion sensors are good. If you're going to put them in an area where there's no investigators or people walking around, and if you have a motion sensor that goes off and there's no one walking in front of it, like that's you have something there, something with an infrared heat signature, if that's how the sensor works, which is how a lot of them work, activates that device, and something with some sort of infrared heat signature walked in front of that device, even though you can't see anything. We tend to stick to that basic stuff, REM pods and EMF meters and stuff like that.
Well, we didn't used to like. I didn't used to like, and you didn't, the spirit box, because it's a lot of like static.
Oh, yeah.
But they made them much better now. So I kind of like the spirit box now, because for some reason you hear them a lot of times. They'll say my name, the spirit boxes, and especially if the spirit box can, like, you'll say, well, where. Can you tell me where we're at? And they'll mention the house that you're investigating. So stuff like, so sometimes you're like, well, maybe it is working, maybe it is real.
Yeah, those are the original versions were very difficult to.
And they work by radio sweeps.
Radio waves, yeah.
Radio waves.
The original ones, it didn't have like noise gates on it and stuff like that, so you couldn't cut out all that static, which is super annoying. And they used to have old speakers that didn't have volume control, and it would just be loud as hell, and you couldn't hear anything else while someone was running one of those. But like you said, they're better now. And that, to me, is more legitimate than an Ovilus, because that's at least picking up radio signals. And we've seen a lot more direct, intelligent answers through a spirit box than we have through an Ovilus any day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're right. They do say her name all the time. It's weird.
Yeah, because the spirit box is one of those controversial pieces of equipment that, I remember when it first came out, wasn't it called the Frank's box? Because it was named after the original inventor, Frank Sumption, and he created this, or came up with this technology that would allow the radio waves to go back and forth, and it basically, you're scanning all the radio dials, right, either on FM or AM. But then I know that there's some experiments where they put that inside a Faraday cage, right, which prevents any type of radio frequency getting inside, and they put a recorder in with it, and it still picks up voices. So it makes you wonder, maybe there is something to this. Maybe the entities need something to manifest. Maybe that's why when it comes to the EVPs, maybe it needs us to manifest into an audible voice. Perhaps that is why some of these voices sound like us.
Yeah.
Could be.
Again, these are just theories we're putting forth. No one really has any answers in the field. We're just kind of testing out a bunch of things, and every once in a while, one of these things tends to be successful, and we stick with that. You two have created a lot of very interesting recordings, and I think we should go through some more of these. The next one I'm going to play is called, this one's called a High, and it's spelled very interesting. There's a bunch of H's and a bunch of I's.
Yeah, you'll see why.
Okay, let's play this one.
We hope.
Okay.
I don't.
Here we go. Oh, no, that's interesting. All right, I'm going to play this one more time. There we go. It's a very breathy voice, huh?
Yeah, and that was recorded at the center at that same public event, and you can hear. I think it's me in the background, like in the next room or down the hall. You can just barely hear my voice in the background, and this was in where we usually do the classes in the living room, and it was near the clock. You can hear the clock ticking there, but that voice is like there was no one in that room at the time, so we're not really sure where that came from.
This centered. What's the story with it?
The center?
Yeah.
It's called the Center Life and Balance. It's 3 floors of holistic practitioners. And also, I was saying that's where they delivered the babies in 1800, Dr. Edgar Haynes. So it was in 1800s, they delivered babies, and then families owned it, and then it was a bed and breakfast. That's why there's 9 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms. And then a woman named Susan Drummond bought it, and we're umbrellaed under her, under the Center Life and Balance.
If they're interested in this sort of stuff, right, and they want to go and take some of your classes, how do they know they're not going to be spooked and pick up something like this? You know, I mean, how do you take any steps? Well, do you take any steps to kind of protect somebody?
Well, as you heard the saying, love and light. It's all love and light there. It's all positivity. It's all good stuff. It's all about healing. So that and higher your vibration. That's the only thing. That's everything that we do there. So it's all good, and it's all in your highest good.
And
so
you
there's
still pick up creepy voices.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're the only ones I'm the only one that is a paranormal. Well, Mike helps with the classes, but I'm the only practitioner that's a paranormal investigator there out of all the practitioners. So no one else is doing it. So
were people describing things taking place there even before you arrived? Did they have experiences before you came on the scene?
Well, yeah, Susan, who owns the Center Life and Balance, she saw Dr. Edgar Haynes standing at the top of the steps. You know, and people, you know, feel things, they sense things. They sensed a dog, a cat, this little girl that's coming through, but heard knockings and stuff like that, but nothing like real severe, nothing negative ever.
Wow.
Just putting that out there in case those of you who are listening to this are a little, you know, uneasy.
Yeah, nothing to be afraid of at all. It's all good.
But you must understand that some people who are not in the field, they're hearing these voices, and to them it's going to sound very creepy.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this is. I mean, let's play this again. This breathy high. It's pretty creepy.
Yeah, it is creepy. And to me, it sounds male. It feels male energy to me.
It sounds male to me, too, yeah.
Why he said it like that? That's the thing. You don't know, like, you wonder, like, why do they say it like that? Or what are they trying to, what's their point that they want to get across?
The way I thought of it is if I were a spirit and I knew that, hey, these guys are walking around trying to talk to me, but they can't see me, I probably would walk over to the recorder and, like, say something creepy into it or something, too. You know what I mean? Just to mess with you.
Yeah, you would.
Maybe it was just that, you know? Could be something as simple as that. Even though it does sound weird and creepy, I mean, it might be as innocent as, like, oh, I'm just going to mess with them and make a creepy voice into this recorder, you know?
Now, let me ask you, though, this recorder, this was your recorder, right, Mike?
This was recorded, I think this was on Taryn's recorder.
Okay.
Taryn was there with us for that one. Yeah, that was on, that's off her recorder.
Because I've always had this thought about EVP that, you know, like you just made mention a few moments ago, if you were a spirit and you were trying to get someone's attention, right, this is something you would do. And I'm wondering if, again, this is just speculative, but what if the voices we're picking up aren't from the afterlife per se, but they're from an alternative universe? What if you guys are picking up the voices of, let's say, you trying to make contact with this parallel realm? Have you ever come across any recordings that have made you consider this theory, or it kind of made you question the spirit theory?
Yeah,
maybe it's not a ghost.
Yeah, when you would be like, I remember just recently, you're like, I don't think that was me, but that could have been me or something to that terms.
Yeah, sometimes you'll hear, we'll get AVPs, it sounds like us. Yeah, there was one, I couldn't find it, but there was one I picked up. It was a private case, and I heard and caught Beth saying something while she was talking, saying something else. And I was standing facing her, so I mean, I'm watching her, I could see her lips move, and I'm listening to her talk, but then I heard another voice come in that sounded like her voice again, over top of her voice. But it couldn't have been her, because she was already talking, and I was watching her. I was, watching her lips move, so I knew what she was saying. But an extra voice had come through that sounded like her, like overlapping it. I don't know.
Yeah, see, that's just
Strange.
remarkable, right?
Strange. So weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. All right, so let's move on. Let's go to the next one. This is titled BCP 1050 two-floor voice.
Okay, so yeah, this is one of those occasions where we just went to the Burlington County Prison Museum, just walked around, during the day, and I think, yeah, this is a voice that just comes out of. It sounds like it's in the room with us in the tunnel.
But you did not hear this in real time, right?
This was not heard at the time, no.
Okay. All right, let's play this.
What are you feeling?
All right, I'm going to play it one more time here.
What are you feeling?
Yeah, so
I said nothing. Right?
yeah, so we were just walking around in the prison,
And the woman's.
and I always, whenever we start investigating somewhere, I always defer to her, and I'm like, all right, where are you feeling? Like, where are you feeling? Because she'll usually feel something and head us in a certain place, a certain room, or a certain floor. So I had asked her, like, I said, what are you feeling? And she said nothing. And then another female voice comes in after that, and it's very, it sounds echoey, like it's spoken right in the hallway. You can hear echo and reverb and all that stuff.
Yeah, you can certainly hear that echo. It's at the very end of the recording. I can't make out what's being said.
Yeah.
But there's that reverb. There is clearly a voice there. And you're saying you did not hear this in real time. It was only until you reviewed the evidence later that you picked up this stray voice. All right, let's play this again.
What are you feeling?
It sounded like we were in the women's part of the prison,
Yeah.
and it sounds like it said, "I'm sick. I'm sick."
So, Mike, you're asking Beth, how are you feeling? Beth responds, and then you hear this other voice that could be saying, I'm sick. Let's give it another listen. Let's see if you can hear I'm sick at the very end.
What are you feeling?
Yeah, now that you say that, it does sound a little bit like that.
A little bit like I'm sick. Yeah, it sounds like a little bit like that.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure, but it could be that.
Now, that gets into another angle that we kind of alluded to earlier, the power of suggestion. When you come across an EVP and you know that it says something, do you tell the other what you think it says first, or do you just let them listen to it and interpret it first?
Sometimes if I personally think it's a class A, I'll say what I see. I'll say, do you hear him say it says this, and then I let them hear. But sometimes if it's questionable, I hear something, but I won't say anything until I say, well, what do you think it says? Yeah, not all the time, but sometimes I'm determined. If I can hear it, then I can hear it, Justin. So that's what I do.
Yeah, sometimes there's a heated debate over what it says.
Oh, I bet. I bet. This is all of that pouring over hours and hours of recordings.
Yeah.
It makes it a little tense.
Crazy. Yeah. Don't tell me it didn't say that. What do you mean you can't hear it?
Yeah, there's been a few times where I get heavily invested in something because to you it's so clear, and then you play it for the other team members, and they're like, "No, that's not what it says. It says this," and then you hear and you think, "Okay, wait." You think it says that, and you listen again, and then you hear that. So, yeah, some of them are just kind of, they're very open to interpretation.
Has the other person been able to sway the argument?
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, especially if you said you think it says this, and then they'll be like, no, and then you'll be like, well, listen again, and I think, are you putting that in my head because you told me that it says that? So is that what I'm hearing? You know. So, subconsciously, I put it in your head like a placebo effect that it says that. So then when you go and listen to it, you'll be like, oh, yeah, I hear that now. I think that happens too.
Yeah, it does.
All right, let's play this one more time, and then we'll move on to the next one.
What are you feeling?
So that was Burlington County Prison. That's an interesting location there. A lot of very interesting experiences have taken place there for paranormal investigators, for people who attend the prison or just walking through. It's a very unique location. All right, let's play this one. This was titled HOSK2MSB 1019. Do you know what this is? Or do you want me to play it first?
This is, I'll set this up. This is the godfather of all EVPs, in my opinion. This,
no.
This is while we were still in training. It was one of the last places that we investigated for, to get qualified as investigators. And so we were downtown Burlington, New Jersey, at the Hoskins house, right down by the water. And we were investigating. Beth and I were up in the attic, and we were with the director, Dave Giuliano, at the time. And it was that point. It was getting close to the end of the evening. I think we were wrapping up at 11 or 11:30, something like that. And it was, it was a little bit after 10:19 was the time. And, so we're just starting to kind of sit there and just tell random stories back and forth, where we're going to the diner and so forth. And Beth, at that time still worked at OBGYN, and so she had a lot of like war stories from work about stuff. And so
it needs no introduction.
It's pretty funny. She's talking. They were talking about camel toes, and
why I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that came up in conversation. But anyway, so we're talking about camel toes, and you'll hear Dave in the clip say, actually before the clip he says, it's really funny. Once we listen to this, what kind of EVPs are we going to pick up in this conversation? And then he says, well, it's that word is politically correct. And then there's another voice right after that comes in and is clearly participating in the conversation.
Interesting. Okay, here we go. This is from the Hoskins house.
It's politically correct.
Okay, it's very clear. Let's play this one more time.
It's politically correct.
All right. Would you consider that a Class A EVP?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, huh?
I think it's pretty clear what's being said there. And again, it's participating in the conversation, and that's one we didn't hear until review. So, yeah.
Yeah. This phenomenon. You never know what you're going to pick up on the recorder, and that's why I'm less likely to believe 100% that it is the spirits of dead people. It could be, but what if it's just an extension of our consciousness and we're picking it up on the recorder too? That could explain why these things are participating in the conversation. Again, this is all speculation. How do you prove this? But I just find it very interesting how a lot of the times the EVP tends to play right in with the conversation that's happening at that particular place and time. I'll be honest, Beth, it kind of sounds like you.
Right, yeah. But it wasn't, right?
Kind of does. It definitely wasn't you.
Yeah, but I was there, sitting there, which is weird.
And I've known you for a while now, and I really don't know you to use language like that, so I could be wrong. But it doesn't seem like something I would expect you to say, let alone whisper. But again, what if you were thinking that? I don't know. So many questions with this. Let's play this again, regretfully. Here we go. This is what Mike Brown considers the godfather of all EVPs.
It's politically correct.
It certainly makes you chuckle.
It's great every time.
Certainly. Yeah. Oh my. I don't know what to make of stuff like this, but hey, it's evidence. You put it out there and you let the audience decide, so.
Yeah.
There you have it. We have 3 more left. We have one called St. Andrews. Nobody lived here. What can you tell me about this one?
Cemetery.
Okay, yeah. So this is it's at the St. Andrews Cemetery in Mount Holly, and it's kind of a private cemetery off the road. We that's kind of what we do sometimes on the weekends. Take a nice relaxing cemetery walk, And of course, when we do, I just happen to have some equipment in the car, so I'll grab the recorder and we'll just kind of take a walk around, and we'll just look at the graves, and we try to find the oldest part of the cemetery, of course, and see how what's the earliest grave we can find, and look at the names and stuff, and we'll recognize names that are still in the area, stuff like that. But the whole time we're just walking around, just kind of shooting the breeze and recording, and this is one of those occasions where I think in the clip you're reading one of the stones, and this other voice comes in. It seems to answer or comment on what you said. Seems to. But we'll see what everybody thinks.
Okay, here we go. Let's play this clip.
Strange. Well, everybody dies, and that's it.
Well, now that's really interesting. Right before the EVP, I heard a voice say nobody. Or, let me listen again.
Strange. Well, everybody dies, and that's it.
Yeah, it's almost like it sounds like a different voice that says nobody. And then I hear another voice that said nobody lived here.
Yeah. Or I'm here, or something, like there's here at the end. I'm here. I don't know, that's what, but it sounds like two different voices, like you said, but that's what I hear. I'm here at the end.
Yeah.
You're sure this was not either of you?
No, because I can tell that's a man's voice that I've never heard.
Yeah.
See, I think sometimes that helps with the EVPs, because I'll tune in psychically again with that. And it's not his voice or my voice. It's somebody that I don't know.
All right, let's play that one more time.
Yeah.
Strange. Well, everybody dies, and that's it.
I hear, I'm here.
Yeah, this is one of those ambiguous ones where it's left up to interpretation. But in the beginning, though, that's the two of you talking. You're conversing about something.
Yeah, it's only us two there. Yeah.
Yep.
And you can hear that quite audibly. But then this stray voice is very quiet, and it's like a whisper. But when you're doing these investigations, not to whisper. That's one of the golden rules you do on paranormal investigating. Do not whisper.
Right, no whispering. Yes.
Yep.
And even at the start of EVP sessions, when you're about to begin, you always state your name and you state your intention for being there, right?
Right.
Yep.
Because because the mindset, right, is that you want whatever could be there to know your purpose and to show respect, right? And how important is that? That respect aspect. Do you think maybe when people don't show respect, that's when a lot of this craziness and this more extreme cases tend to take place?
Absolutely. They were human. They were human at one time, so you show everybody respect. Regardless of what they went through. It's when you, another rule is no provoking. Don't or talk meanly. Like people will say on some of the shows, why don't you just come up and hit me then, or push me down the steps, or, you just want to show them respect, because I think they'll communicate better with you if you respect them and be kind.
Yeah, 100%.
Because a lot of times you don't know how these people died. You don't know what type of life they lived. Like, you treat them like you treat people here on Earth now, with kindness.
Can't go wrong with kindness. All right. The next clip here is titled Snore One Doorknob. Is this a snore? Is this a doorknob? What are we listening to?
Did I send that one? Oh.
Yeah,
you sent two marked snore. Snore 1 and snore 2. But one is doorknob, the other is boots.
Okay. All right, so
Hillview.
I might actually have that recorder here.
This is from Hillview, you said?
No, not Hillview.
Okay. It's this.
Where was it
I was
from?
using this recorder right here.
That is the, was that the Tascam?
Tascam. So The reason I show you that is in order to start recording with this, you have to hold down the power button for a couple seconds. It turns on, right? Then you have to push the record button here. It goes into a record standby mode. And you have to hit record again to start recording, right? Now, that's important because for both of these clips, and this was a Greystone Manor.
Greystone Manor, sorry.
Upstate New York. We had finished investigating. It was like 2 in the morning. We were exhausted. We finished investigating. We gather up all the equipment, and we just kind of, like, hastily throw it onto the cases in the bedroom. And as everyone's going to bed, and I take the recorder, I turn it off, I hold down the power button until it goes off, I turn off the headphones, I set it on the dresser. And what I discovered when I woke up the next day is when I picked up the recorder to start recording again after we had breakfast and were chit-chatting for a while, I noticed my recorder is on and it's recording. And I'm like, wait, what the heck? And so I go back and I review it, and I come to find out my recorder, without hearing anyone on the recording approaching the recorder, without hearing anyone push buttons, as you know, I mean, you've handled these sensitive recorders before, you can't pick this up while it's recording and fiddle with it without making a ton of noise, right? But you never hear that. But the recorder turns on, starts recording, records 3 separate recordings. So twice it turned off and then started recording again throughout the night while I'm in the bed sleeping. And so it was torturous, honestly, to listen to, 7.5 hours of me snoring loudly. But I'm glad I got through it, because a couple of the things that I picked up on was, one of them was our doorknob jiggling, and the other one was these footsteps, which we heard, which I'll get to that one when we get to that one, but it makes no physical sense.
Because it was on carpet. It's carpet, and you hear them boots on wood. It sounded like going across wood floors.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's play the first one. This is, you hear the door jiggling. And to recap, you're sleeping. You have no idea that the recorder's on. Somehow it turned on by itself or by an unseen force. And like you stated before, these are very sensitive devices. You pick this up, you're going to hear someone fumbling around just to push the record button. Oh my gosh. All right, let's play this one. This is Doorknob. All right, let me play this again. This is Doorknob. So it's very, very faint.
Yeah, it's not real loud.
I can hear you snoring, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can hear a very, very faint jiggle of a doorknob. Now, how far away was the doorknob from the recorder?
It was probably a good 6 to 8 feet, probably. And the recorder was facing the opposite direction as well. Like the actual microphones were actually facing the opposite direction. That's why.
Okay. Yeah, because with this particular recorder, the microphones are on the top of the recorder. They face toward each other, but these two microphones are facing away from the where the doorknob would be. All right, let's play it one more time. And folks, you might have to turn up your volume a little bit, see if you can hear this. Yeah, it's very, very faint there, but it's,
you can hear it a little bit, yeah.
But now this other clip, this is in the same night, same room. You hear boot steps or footsteps. But Beth, like you mentioned, this is a carpeted room. There should not be loud footsteps. And this is a rather lengthy clip too. This is about 33 seconds long.
Yeah, and the thing is, the recorder was in the same spot as in the other recording, and you can hear how faint that door handle was. And it was only when we listened in the headphones and I jiggled the doorknob that I was able to match up, like, okay, yeah, it was this door. When you think about that and you play this and you hear these boot steps, it doesn't make sense. One, what they sound like, because it clearly sounds like cowboy boots on a wooden floor. And the volume of it doesn't make sense either, because, Heather has her hallways heavily, padded and carpeted. I mean, it's... If you stomp your feet, you're not even going to be able to make a loud noise.
And it would have woke you up. It was so loud.
Yeah.
The footsteps.
Yeah, what's interesting, though, is you do hear me kind of turn over in the bed when the footsteps start. So I wonder if maybe subconsciously I did hear something, because you hear me sort of, roll over in the bed at the same time. So.
All right, let's play this one here. Here we go. This is the boot steps clip. Yeah, that's you certainly hear footsteps walking around. Yeah,
and they sound heavy footsteps too. Like there's no way you wouldn't. And it's impossible because the whole place is carpeted upstairs.
Even outside of the room, that's carpeted.
Yeah, out in the hallway is carpeted. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
What do you make of this? I mean, did anybody else hear footsteps?
Well, people who've stayed there are our friend Heather, who owns this. It's a bed and breakfast. That's one of the things that they experience is the loud footsteps walking down the hallway. But like you said, it's all carpet. All the bedrooms are carpeted, and then the hallways are carpeted upstairs.
Yep. Yeah, she said she hears that often in her office. Is actually if you were to come out of the room I was staying in and make a right, go a little ways, there's a stairwell going down. If you keep going across the hallway, there's another bedroom there, which is also thickly carpeted. But she often hears those same wooden boot steps on wood just above her office, which is underneath of that end bedroom. So it's right in that same area. The hallway to that last bedroom is where a lot of other people also have recorded hearing footsteps and stuff. One thing Heather does, which I think is cool, is in each room is sort of decorated in a different theme, but she has a diary in each room where you can actually, record if you had any weird experiences during the night or during your stay. You log them in there, and so we were looking through those and hearing some cool stories. And there's footsteps are reported in there too.
Fascinating. All right, let's play this one more time. Remarkable stuff. That just goes to show that with EVP, it's not necessarily voices that get picked up, but it's also these strange sounds, ambient sounds.
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually a similar phenomena that I used to experience at that haunted house I moved into. And it was several of us heard it on different times, but I think 3 to 4 people in total actually experienced it at different times of being there. And it was the same kind of a thing, loud footsteps coming from above you that sounded like, they're almost on the ceiling right above your head. They were that loud, which didn't make sense because all the walls were plaster and all the floors were carpeted. So the floor would creak, but you wouldn't be able to hear someone upstairs if they were walking around, not at all. Because I was on the first floor and I heard them from the second floor and loudly. And almost so loud it didn't make sense. My brain was like, what the heck is going on? Where am I hearing these footsteps from? And my ex at the time was in the kitchen and also heard it. Came running in. And she's like, did you hear that? And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't even make sense. How everything's carpeted. Yeah. So it's the same kind of thing. It's sound that's coming out of that building. It's coming from that space somewhere, somehow. But it shouldn't be physically possible because of all the padding and carpet and so forth.
Wow, that's amazing. Stay tuned for next week's conclusion when we get into the photo evidence they've acquired on some of these investigations. I can't wait for you to hear it and see it. You have been listening to Terror Signals with Justin Bamforth and presented by Normal Paranormal. For more on this show and other topics of high strangeness, please visit normalparanormal.org or visit the program website at terrorsignals.com.